The other day, a commercial came on my TV for the show Outdaughtered. You know, the TV show about all-girl quintuplets. Now, I started talking to my mom about it, and she looked me dead in the eye mid-conversation and went, "I could not have handled that many of you." If you can't tell from that statement alone, I was a wild child growing up. Anytime my house was quiet, my mom knew I was up to something. Whether it be from the time I threw myself down the stairs for fun, locked myself in the dryer during hide and seek, or when I really wanted candy, so I climbed to the very top of my fridge, but was so incredibly scared so I didn't even climb back down. See, despite all of my not ordinary feats of adventure, I have always considered my childhood completely normal, mundane even. But as I met my friends' parents and their families, I soon realized that there's quirks that scatter in my childhood that a majority of other people don't experience. I was never allowed to touch my mom's legs under any circumstance. If I knew my way around a doctor's office better than my own back of my hand. And if I got scared by the boogeyman in the middle of the night and I ran to sleep in my mom's bed with her, there was always a wall of pillows that separated her and I every single night. See, all of these quirks and differences all add up to the fact that I've been raised by a disabled mother, and she has been my entire life. But these quirks have given me an insight into a world that, again, a majority of people do not see, the disabled world. And as I grew older, I soon realized that these insights have allowed me to build a bridge to connect the disabled and able-bodied world, to show those what it's like to be disabled in an able-bodied world, to help end discrimination and to educate. Now, I have a sense of humor the majority of people would not think is funny, especially out of context. For example, around a year or so ago, my mom had to start using a walker. And there's something you should know about my mother. She's more stubborn than a mule digging its heels into the ground. So of course, when she actually had to start using her walker, she immediately denied using it and had a lot of disdain for it. But it wasn't necessarily because she had to have help to walk. It had a lot to do with that she knew the stigma and the judgment her walker would wheel around. See, whenever she finally told me how she felt, I looked at her, and in my own fashion, I told her, if someone stares at you or makes a rude comment, just whack them with your walker. And, of course, this comment didn't come out of the blue, because my entire childhood, there have been people who have stared or made comments that have made me so mad. But it all comes down to the fact that people don't understand what it's like to be disabled. Now, there are a few phrases that I have ingrained into my head from how many times I heard it. They're compiled in what I like to call I don't understand's greatest hits. Here are some of them. Is she contagious? Oh, that poor woman bringing her daughter in like that. I wonder how she does it. Is that little girl her caretaker already? She's going to have no childhood. I'm going to disprove all of those for you. No, my mom is not contagious. My mom brought me into public using her legs and a car, and despite being disabled, you can be a good parent. And I'm not her caretaker, and I had a really good childhood. And even if I end up having to be her caretaker later in life, what's so bad about that? See, like I said, I used to get so mad whenever I saw people stare at her or make comments, because before her walker, she had a limp that was incredibly noticeable, which she still has. But my mom had to sit me down and tell me that people don't know. And the same time as she told me that people don't know, something blossomed inside of me. It was a desire to tell people what it's actually like, to help build a bridge between the disabled and able-bodied world, to show and to end the misunderstandings. Whenever I asked my mom what's something she took for granted, because she only became disabled around 18 years ago, one of the major things she always tells me is not having to plan hours or even days in advance to leave her own home. There are small things that we find so incredibly mundane as an able-bodied person that my mom, as someone with a disability, does not find mundane at all. In fact, there's hurdles. Now, in front of Publix, there's usually a strip of yellow bumps. You probably don't even know what I'm talking about, or only vaguely know. My mom knows exactly what these are. See, on her left foot is part of where her main illness is, and walking on uneven ground causes excruciating pain. She has been able to calculate how far to put her good right foot forward in order to swing her left foot completely over top of it, in order to avoid any pain. This is one way someone with a disability has to take into account for mundane, normal things in order to leave their own house. Millions and thousands of people have to do the same exact thing because this world is built for the able-bodied person. Now, there's things even I, as a girl who was raised completely by her disabled mother, take so for granted. A paper falling, I can pick it up easily. Something hits my leg, oh well, it didn't even hurt. Even being able to go to the bathroom in a public restaurant, knowing that there's at least one stall that fits my width because I do not have a walker or a wheelchair. Now, our society has an open secret. Our world is not made for the disabled body. Now, around a month or so ago, my speech and debate coach pulled me aside and told me a story she heard. There was a school about a few years ago that added a new level to the top of their school. It's going to be the music room, an entire floor only for music that students could appreciate and learn. Now, they had a school elevator, but they didn't make it go to the top floor. So those, if you just broke your leg or you have a disability, they were unable to experience the joys of music. This is all because they were grandfathered out of having to follow the regulations and laws of the ADA. The ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it was passed in 1990. And an Amendments Act added on to it in 2010. But because of the age, they didn't have to follow. This is just one example of how, in the grand scheme of things, people do not think about what it's like to be disabled and what they needed to take into account to do. But thankfully, there's ways that those with disabled bodies can live in an able-bodied world. There are wheelchair ramps whenever there's a public restaurant. There's at least one stall wide enough to accommodate for a walker or a wheelchair. And there's even telecommunication systems for internet services for those who are hard of hearing, deaf, blind, or visually impaired, can go and talk on the phone just like someone who can hear or see. Now, whenever I think of these things, I also always think about how hard it is to be disabled in this world. When I think of the new things that have been put into place, the advocacy that people do, the new laws and regulations have been added in the past 10, 2, 3 decades, I know that 100% will go down exponentially and soon to zero, until the point where the world is not separated and the bridge is built. Now, when I was researching for this speech, I came across a headline that really struck with me from the Chicago Tribune. Recognize the person first, not the disability. I cannot express how true this is. Time and time again, I hear my mom telling me, I wish people saw me first instead of my walker, instead of my limp. And I know everybody else with any type of disability thinks the same exact thing. They'd rather you see who they are inside instead of what they have that is different from you. And it all comes down to the fact that our society has a lackluster education about what it's like to be disabled. So people are uncomfortable around those who do not look or act the same as they do. So today, I'm asking you to educate yourself. Go ask questions, be polite. A lot of people are honestly very willing to talk about it. Learn what it's like to be disabled in an able-bodied world. Help me build a bridge between the disabled and able-bodied world to make the world into one. Thank you.